Argala from Lagna. This I'll say it as a question. Argala from Lagna is what guna? Argala from Ārūḍha Lagna is which guna?
Argala from
Lagna?
It's Thomas.
It's tamas.
Yeah.
Argala from Lagna is the tamas bhavas. Argala from Ārūḍha Lagna?
Oh, it is.
Would be the
It's
Rasa.
Sattvic.
Oh.
No, it's two.
You're having a hard time seeing the board.
Yeah.
You don't have the. Do you have that handout that you brought that one time with my
This
lecture?
one?
No, the one. No, the one that you ordered from Lakshmi about houses from Ārūḍha Lagna. You pulled it up and showed me that one time that you had it. It's not in that pile. Argala is 2, 11, 4, 5, and 8.
So those are all like in the terms of the natural zodiac.
From Ārūḍha Lagna? What is it?
2, 4, 5, 8, 11. It's pretty sattvic. It looks like.
They're all sattvic.
All except the fourth house.
Yeah.
Yeah, all except the 4th house. Because it's a Kendra. But they're sattva. We're from Lagna, they're tamas. Physical world, it's tamas that gets us things. Social world, sattva. Interesting.
Yeah,
So Argala, let's do a little Argala review.
I'm sorry, I missed that again. So Argala from Ārūḍha Lagna is Sattva.
Okay. Argala. What's the difference between Argala and Varodha? Give me the example with the 2nd and 12th house. Second house Argala does what? Brings things into our life.
Right.
12th house, Varodha, takes things from our life. If there's more planets here than there is here, there's more things leaving than there are coming. So it's a positive, negative situation. Which one is winning? More positives or more negatives happening? We all have periods of our life where things are growing and becoming more prosperous, and we all have times of our life where everything is going away. Depending on the positive and negative. This is us right here, and it's what's coming in and it's what's going out. If there's more negatives happening, we want to strengthen the house where things are sustained. We want the positive Argala bringing things into our life. Only exception to that is what?
The moon.
Unfortunately, not the moon. This is bringing things into our life.
See, what about malefic planets? Do you want them?
Sometimes malefic planets we don't want in our life. We don't want the bad things. So sometimes a benefic blocking malefic things coming can actually be good. But in general, this is bringing things in, this is taking things out. Okay? It's like a positive, negative charge. 3rd house and 11th house are working together. So this is our first Argala. This is our second.
What does Argala mean?
Our third. Argala?
Is there a translation? Relationship?
Literal translation means to lock. Like you lock your door.
Oh.
It's locking a result in place. Intervention. That's how they translate it. The Varodha is obstruction. So the negative becomes an obstruction, and the Argala becomes an addition.
Or an intervention?
intervention. The whole system, this is the whole what's intervening in our life. So to really understand the Ārūḍha Lagna, we got to understand this. We got to understand the gunas, we got to understand Argala. And then the Ārūḍha Lagna is easy to understand. Everything actually becomes easy when you understand the gunas and Argala. So these two are interacting. You either have things coming into your life or you're losing things in your life. Now, 11th house is gains. This is the things that we're saving in our life, that we're keeping, savings, bank accounts. This is the money coming into our life. It's the 11th house. Money's coming in, pouring in. We're earning. Now, there's the special rule with the 3rd house that if benefics are there, they actually block us from earning. Malefics, they cause a viparita. And we actually start getting things from the malefics. But how do we get the things from malefics in the 3rd?
In bad ways.
Well, through effort
Well,
or courage.
through tamasic means.
Through tamasic means. Nice way to put it.
Yeah. I'm trying to remove the bad, good kind of thing.
So if you're at home, 4th house, can you be at work?
Nope.
If you're at work, can you be at home?
Nope.
So you can only be in one or the other. So if your 10th house Argala gets activated, you end up spending way too much time at work and not enough at home.
I knew that happened too.
Right here, you can't be in both. What makes you happiest? Most people are happier at home than at work.
Right.
Except when? What was the one chance? What happens if our home is really terrible? Malefic, like you go home and it's bad. Then you sometimes are happier at work, right? That happens occasionally, but most of the time people are rather be at home than doing some job. 5th house is your own advice. 9th house is other people's advice. Everybody wants to be able to just follow their own, right? But more planets here will make us follow other people's advice. So Ajay, you got the sun in the 9th, what do you got in the 5th? Nothing. So is he more likely to follow his own advice or other people's advice?
Other people, but that sun in the night.
Other people's. This is stronger. So it's taking away. He might be happier if he was making his own decisions, but bottom line, he's listening to other people. So he's getting the obstruction to his own advice and following others. Luckily, it's the sun.
Well, if he had, what if he
It's
had
the sun.
Mars
So,
in the 5th?
hold on. It's the sun. Is the sun going to give him bad advice?
So give him good advice.
For the most part.
Not bad advice.
The sun is pretty good advice.
Yeah.
So it's not that bad of a situation. If it was a malefic and it was blocking his own advice, for example, who's Marna Karkastana here? Rahu. So if Rahu was giving you advice, if some, drugged up, confused reality person was giving you advice, that'd be a pretty bad obstruction.
That would be bad. I'd have to do something about that.
Yeah.
In the 5th house, you
Mhm.
have debilitated Mercury with Sun.
Debilitated Mercury with Sun.
And in
Okay.
the 9th house,
Yeah.
you have exalted Jupiter.
Exalted Jupiter.
Retrograde.
Okay. Retrograde.
Retrograde.
So it's not exalted anymore. Becomes Nietzsche. It's Ucha Banga. But you have an exalted planet here. Now the thing is, you have 2 planets here, 1 planet here. So what's he following? His own advice or someone else's?
But debilitated Mercury. Sun.
But
Sun.
there's 2 here, there's 1 there.
Yeah.
It's the
More
numbers
planets
that count.
than-
The first rule is the numbers. So there's more planets here, so you're more listening to your own advice. Even if this, if for some reason has a dasha where it's not debilitated anymore, you're still following your own advice. More. Because of this Argala. And so, there's two things that can be done. One is you can try and increase Jupiter so much, make him so strong that he'll overrule this, or you can just strengthen Mercury so that you make better decisions. Because at least they're benefics, right? Sun and Mercury. So, they're going to make pretty good decisions if we make it strong. So we got to make Mercury strong. And then, you'll be able to follow your own advice, because you're following your own advice anyway. You're not listening to the Jupiter. Okay?
Can we go one step further? So to make Mercury strong, then you would use the Jyotirlingam.
We could use. No, I would use Vishnu.
Mm-hmm.
I would use a Vishnu Rupa. 5th house. And it's Mercury. Mercury is Vishnu. We could also use Shiva, right? Because it's with the sun.
Well, so we learned that it would activate that.
Mm-hmm.
It would activate it like Shiva. Set it on fire.
But the bottom line is we want to make sure he's getting good advice. But so all these houses, one is going to be acting, and one is not going to be acting.
Mm-hmm.
The most beneficial one to be acting is the one that's giving us positive results. Unless it's a bad planet giving us positive results. For example, I have Saturn here and I have Jupiter here from my ascendant. What's Saturn want to give me? Saturn's the one that wants to give, but what's he want to give me?
Lots of work.
Let's pretend it's food.
Oh, yes.
Old food, frozen food.
A lot of crackers.
Old food, frozen food, frozen, like. So
Someone else's leftovers.
Someone else's leftovers, frozen food. That's what Saturn wants me to be eating.
Okay.
If I make Jupiter stronger, he's going to block that. And what's Jupiter want me to eat?
Vegetarian food.
Vegetarian, sweets. No chocolates. Saturn wants chocolates.
Oh, Saturn wants
Yeah.
chocolate?
Don't believe this Jupiter chocolate thing, reality.
Jupiter would want very, very sweet milk chocolate.
Milk chocolate.
Dark chocolate.
He wants
bitter
pure sattvic, sweets.
Okay.
And chocolate's not sattvic.
You're right.
It clogs the manavaha shotas according to Ayurveda.
Oh, so we
That's
never
not
should bring
sattvic.
chocolate for class.
Mangoes.
Huh?
Mangoes.
Mangoes. Fruits.
Fruits. Yeah.
Jupiter loves fruits. That's
pure
what his
sweetness.
best thing is, fruits. All that natural sweetness in there.
Mhm.
So if we strengthen Jupiter, then I'll be eating more fruits and less frozen foods.
Mhm. Oh, so in this case.
Only one of them is going to be active.
So this is how you use
So
the rule.
it's actually better that I use Jupiter to block Saturn.
Right, okay.
Okay?
That's brilliant.
But only one can be acting.
His placement in the 12th house, wouldn't that
It doesn't.
negate his effect?
That knowledge of Jupiter, he blocks. All we care about is that he's blocking Saturn from giving me frozen food. Okay?
He's not just blocking, he's also giving something of his own.
Of his own,
But the
yeah.
thing is, he's in a house, but just taking stuff away, so how can he be giving it as well?
I'll be spending food in healthier places. I'll be spending my money buying food in healthier places. From farms and stuff that,
So it just means that you have an additional expense in buying the proper food, and that's just your karma for it.
There you go. Beautiful. Healthy food is more expensive most of the time. So in this way, but only one is active at a time. And one is blocking, one is giving. So we all understand Argala. Right? We think we do. As I
This is
said,
really good.
it took me
Yeah,
5 to
it
10
is.
times before I got it 100%.
This was a lot better presented than the last time I heard it at the conference, but maybe it's just because it's the second time.
Exactly. So it takes multiple times. But this was actually, I was hanging out with a friend of the guy who got me into Vedic astrology. He taught me dashas, he taught me the planets, and then all of a sudden he had this revelation that if he really wanted to understand Vedic astrology, he had to go to school for astrophysics. And so he moved to Montana and went to the best astrophysics school in the country.
It's in Montana.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Bozeman, Montana or something. What's the name of the school out there? I don't know. He studied, he worked on these machines that made supercomputer crystals and stuff and all kinds of, and I was talking to him one day and he's investing all of his money right now into hydrogen power. And because where he's working, they have tons of hydrogen left over. And he was explaining to me, how it works. He said, well, the bottom line is a battery works. You have a positive and a negative. And like magnets want to stick together.
Mm-hmm.
What happens is that positive wants to go to the negative. And all you do is you make it do some work to get there. So you put the battery in, And as long as it moves the current through, it's trying to get back to the other side. And it's making your product work at the same time. And so, the hydrogen, it's just you make it, the hydrogen atom wants to get back to an oxygen so it can turn into water. And so when that hydrogen crosses over, you make it do some work to create electricity to get to the oxygen. It wants to get to that oxygen. So it's this positive and negative situation. When he told me that, I came up with, instead of saying Argala and obstruction, plus and minus. It's it's the same thing. One, the energy is getting spent in one of these places, and it needs to get spent. We're either at home or we're at work. Rarely are we, unless you're homeless or, something of the nature, you're rarely one or the other. You're either eating or you're fasting. You're either saving money or you're losing money. It's not both happening at the same time. So.
And how come it doesn't work with the first and seventh?
First and seventh? It is.
It does.
But the thing is, it's going to be whether it's, it depends on whether this planet likes that or not.
So it's the natural friendships of the
Natural friendships, yeah.
Can we just do an example of the 6th and the 8th house?
Okay. 6th house, laws, regulations, things of that nature. 8th house, you just took out a loan to start a new business. You want to start the new business, you need to open it, but all of a sudden they said, no, you can't open until you make the parking lot have an exit sign and an entry sign. You have to have that, like, in order to get an operating permit.
I didn't know that.
In order to have a store, like, you have to have an exit and all kinds of these little things for permits. So this is, all these laws and regulations stopping you from opening this business you just got your loan for. Like that.
Or if we talk about health versus death, I mean, the 8th house is, say, chronic diseases. Well, both 6th and 8th house can be ill health.
This is more longevity.
Oh, right. Okay.
This is your longevity. And this is all the bad habits you have that are taking away from your longevity.
Isn't the 8th house also chronic disease?
It's chronic disease if there's something there that's activating that. The 7th and the 2nd are Marika. Because, why?
Because the 7th is the 12th house from the 8th, so it's the loss of longevity.
It's the loss of longevity. This 3rd is 8th from the 8th. So again, the loss of longevity is the Marika. So you die when the loss of longevity happens. Planet here disrupts the longevity. It's causing a problem relative to that planet. It's indicating, because it's 12th from the 9th, it's indicating what you did in your previous life, where you didn't follow Dharma. And in this life, it's just the suffering of that. Whatever dharmic thing you didn't follow. Okay? So Argala.
Right, so the 6th house would be Varoda to the 8th.
Yes,
right.
it's blocking
okay.
the 8th.
Because 8th house is longevity, and any bad habits from the 6th house will block that longevity.
Exactly.
Okay.
So would 8th house and the 8th lord and the 9th show up?
Best is having none there, always. They're,
That's why they always want to have 8th and 6th.
they're not good they're not good houses, but relative to each other, one is activating the other. You were saying?
So 8th lord and the 9th house would show a person like overcame some of their...
I don't know, see what Parashara says about that one. After.